The rain hammered Miami's Liberty City like a judgment, turning streets into rivers and drowning out the usual hum of life. Streetlights flickered, their weak glow barely piercing the downpour, casting the neighborhood in a haze of gray and shadow. Amara Thompson, 32, trudged through the deluge, her nurse's scrubs plastered to her skin, heavy with water and exhaustion. Her 12-hour shift at Jackson Memorial Hospital had been a marathon of chaos: gunshot wounds, overdoses, and families clinging to hope in sterile waiting rooms. All she wanted now was to reach her small bungalow, kick off her sodden sneakers, and curl up with Titan, her German shepherd, who'd be waiting in his backyard kennel, ears pricked for her return. But tonight the world had other plans. Amara pulled her hoodie tighter, the fabric doing little against the relentless storm. Her sneakers squelched with every step, the rhythm a tired counterpoint to the rain's roar. She was 3 blocks from home when the screech of tires sliced through the noise. A police cruiser skidded to a stop under a flickering street lamp, its red and blue lights slashing through the curtain of water. Amara froze, her breath catching. She'd grown up in this neighborhood, seen enough to know that flashing lights at night rarely meant good news. Her hand instinctively reached for her phone, but it was dead, drained from a day of texting updates to patients' families. 2 officers stepped out, their rain-slicked uniforms gleaming under the cruiser's headlights. Officer Daniel Carter, 40, led the way, his broad shoulders and sharp jaw cutting an imposing figure. His eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Amara with the predator's focus. Officer Liam Hayes, 35, followed, slighter but no less menacing, his hand resting casually on his holster. The rain didn't seem to touch them, as if their authority repelled it. Amara Thompson? Carter's voice was a blade, sharp with smug certainty. He didn't wait for her to confirm. "You're under arrest." The words hit like a physical blow, stealing the air from her lungs. Amara's mind raced, scrambling to make sense of the accusation. Arrest? For what? Her voice held steady, a skill honed in war zones and emergency rooms, but her heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat against the storm. Carter smirked, stepping closer, his boots splashing in the pooling water. Possession with intent to distribute. He nodded to Hayes, who produced a small plastic bag from his pocket with a flourish, like a magician revealing a trick. The bag hit the pavement at Amara's feet, splitting open to scatter white powder across the wet asphalt. The powder dissolved quickly, but its message lingered. This was a setup as blatant as it was cruel. "That's not mine." Amara's voice rose, cutting through the rain's hiss. "You planted that. You can't just—" Hayes cut her off with a chuckle, low and mirthless. "Sure, sweetheart. Tell it to the judge. Hands behind your back." Amara's hands shook as she complied, the cold bite of handcuffs snapping around her wrists. The metal was too tight, digging into her skin, a deliberate act of control. She bit her lip, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a wince. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape, a witness, anything. The street wasn't empty. Neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the flashing lights. Porches filled with silhouettes, curtains twitched, and a few brave souls stepped into the rain, their phones raised, screens glowing like fireflies in the dark. One figure stood out, Jaden Carter, 16, a lanky kid from her block who always waved when she jogged by with Titan. He stood across the street, his hoodie soaked, his phone steady despite the trembling in his hands. He was recording, his jaw set with a defiance that made Amara's chest ache with gratitude and fear. She knew what it cost a black kid to stand up to cops in Liberty City. Carter noticed Jaden too. "Put that damn phone down, kid," he barked, taking a step toward him. Jaden flinched but held his ground, his voice cracking but resolute. "I ain't doing nothing wrong." The crowd murmured, tension crackling like lightning. Amara's pulse surged, seen videos of moments like this spiraling into tragedy. "Leave him alone," she shouted, stepping forward despite the cuffs. The movement jolted Carter's attention back to her, his smirk twisting into a scowl. "Control your mouth, Thompson," he warned, his hand hovering near his baton. "Or this gets worse." A deep, primal growl rumbled through the air, stopping Carter mid-step. Titan, her 4-year-old German shepherd, had slipped through the loose fence of her nearby yard, his fur matted with rain but his presence commanding. His eyes, amber and unyielding, locked onto Carter, reading the threat in his posture. Trained in Afghanistan to detect explosives and protect his handler, Titan knew malice when he saw it. His hackles rose, teeth bared just enough to signal he was ready to act. Hayes tensed, his hand drifting to his taser. "Call off that dog or I'll fry it." Amara's heart lurched. Titan wasn't just a pet, was her lifeline. They'd served together in Helmand Province, where his nose had saved her unit from roadside bombs, and her hands had stitched his wounds after a Taliban ambush. When their tour ended, she'd fought to adopt him, bringing him home to Miami, where his loyalty became her anchor. The thought of losing him was a knife to her chest. "Titan, stand," she commanded, her voice firm but threaded with desperation. The dog obeyed, his growl softening to a low rumble, but his eyes never left Hayes. The crowd grew, their whispers rising like a tide. "This ain't right," a man in a baseball cap muttered. "They're setting her up." Carter scoffed, turning to Hayes. "Cuff her tighter. Let's wrap this up." Hayes moved to comply, yanking Amara's arms back until the cuffs bit deeper. She gasped, the pain sharp, but her eyes stayed defiant. "You won't get away with this," she said, her voice low but fierce. "People are watching." Carter's smirk returned, but it was strained. "Watching don't mean nothing. You're just another statistic." As Hayes shoved her toward the cruiser, a new voice cut through the storm, gravelly and commanding. "Hold it right there." The crowd parted, revealing a man in a worn leather jacket, his gray hair slicked back by the rain. Robert Bobby Malone, 62, stood with his hands in his pockets, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp as a blade. A retired Miami-Dade detective, Malone was a neighborhood legenda cop who'd walked away from the badge rather than play dirty. His presence shifted the air, like a storm breaking to reveal sunlight. "On what grounds are you arresting her, Carter?" Malone's question was calm, but it carried the weight of decades on the force. His gaze flicked to the scattered powder on the ground, then back to Carter, unyielding. Carter's smirk faltered, but he recovered quickly. "Probable cause, Malone. Found drugs on her. Stay out of this." Malone stepped closer, rain dripping from his jacket. "Probable cause, huh? Looks like a sloppy setup to me. I've seen your kind before planting evidence, thinking no one's watching." He nodded toward Jaden, still recording. "But people are watching now. And they're not scared of you." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, emboldened. A woman in a hoodie shouted, "Let her go." Others joined in, their voices a chorus against the rain. Amara felt a spark of hope, fragile but fierce. She'd grown up in Liberty City, seen its pain and its pride. This was her community, and they were waking up. Hayes, unnerved by Malone's presence, radioed for backup, his voice tight. "We need assistance at 12th and MLK. Suspect resisting." "I'm not resisting," Amara said, her voice clear, cutting through the lie. She locked eyes with Malone, silently pleading for him to stay. He gave her a slight nod, a promise he wouldn't back down. Carter, sensing control slipping, grabbed Amara's arm, yanking her toward the cruiser. "Enough of this. You're coming with us." Titan's growl returned, louder now, his muscles coiling like a spring. Amara's whistle, sharp in practice, stopped him just short of lunging. "Titan, hold," she cried, her voice cracking with strain. The dog froze, but his eyes burned, a silent vow to protect her. The crowd surged forward, phones raised like weapons, their screens a digital jury. Jaden's older brother, Marcus, 22, pushed through, his own phone recording. "I got it all, man," he shouted, his voice triumphant. "You're done." Marcus's fingers flew across his screen, uploading the video to Twitter with hashtags, "Justice for Amara, Miami PD corruption." Notifications pinged her tweets, likes, shares. The video was spreading, a spark in dry grass. Carter's face paled, his grip on Amara loosening. "You think a video changes anything?" he hissed, but his voice betrayed doubt. He glanced at Hayes, who was sweating despite the rain, his eyes darting nervously. Malone stepped between Carter and Amara, his presence a wall. "It changes everything, Daniel. You're on camera planting evidence, threatening a kid. This isn't your playground anymore." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Amara's chest tightened, more officers could mean more trouble. She thought of Titan, alone if they took her away. She thought of her mother, who'd raised her to stand tall in this neighborhood, and her unit in Afghanistan, who'd taught her to fight. She wouldn't break now. The crowd's resolve held firm, their phones unwavering. Miss Clara, a woman in her 50s who ran the corner store, stepped forward, her voice trembling but fierce. "We know Amara. She's a nurse, a veteran. She stitched up my grandson last year. You ain't fooling us." Hayes, rattled, glanced at Carter. "Maybe we should." "Shut up," Carter snapped, but his bravado was crumbling. The sirens were louder now, 2 more cruisers pulling up. 4 officers stepped out, their expressions wary as they scanned the crowd. One, a younger cop with a hesitant look, muttered, "What's going on here?" Malone seized the moment. These two are framing an innocent woman. Check the kid's video. It's all there. The young officer hesitated, glancing at Jaden, who held up his phone. It's online already. Thousands of people are watching. Carter lunged toward Jaden again, fury overtaking reason. Give me that phone. The crowd shouted, closing ranks around the teen. Titan barked, a deep, resonant warning that echoed off the buildings. Amara's heart pounded. She feared for Jaden, for Titan, for herself. She yanked against the cuffs, the metal cutting into her wrists, but she refused to stay silent. Stop it, she shouted. You're caught, Carter. Let him go. Malone was faster. He grabbed Carter's arm, his grip iron. Back off, Daniel. You're digging your own grave. The standoff held, rain pounding the pavement, lights flashing, phones recording. The new officers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whose side to take. Then Marcus's voice rang out, triumphant. It's viral. Channel 7's picking it up. The crowd cheered, sensing a shift. Carter froze, his face a mask of rage and fear. Amara, still cuffed, stood taller, her voice cutting through the chaos. I'm not afraid of you. The truth is out now. Hayes muttered to Carter, his voice low but urgent. We need to regroup. Carter glared at Malone, then at Amara, his eyes promising retribution. But he backed off, signaling Hayes to follow. This isn't over, he growled, shoving Amara toward the cruiser. The cuffs bit deeper, but she refused to wince. As they pushed her into the back seat, Titan's bark followed, a vow of loyalty that pierced her heart. The crowd chanted her name, Amara. Amara. Their voices a lifeline. Malone met her eyes through the window, his nod a silent promise. He'd fight for her. The cruiser pulled away, rain blurring the world outside. Amara's hands shook, but her resolve hardened. She thought of Titan, of Jaden's courage, of Malone's stand. She thought of the nights in Afghanistan when Titan's steady presence had kept her sane, and the mornings in Miami when her neighbors' smiles had kept her grounded. This wasn't just her fight, Anna Marie, it was theirs. And as Marcus's video spread, igniting outrage across Miami, she knew the storm was just beginning. The fluorescent lights of the Miami-Dade County Detention Center buzzed like angry wasps, casting a sterile glow over the holding cell where Amara Thompson sat, her wrists still raw from the handcuffs. The concrete bench was cold, seeping through her damp scrubs, but her mind was elsewhere in Titan, her German shepherd, left barking in the rain as the cruiser hauled her away. On Jaden's video, now spreading like wildfire online, on the faces of her neighbors. Their phones raised like torches in the storm. The memory of their chance, Amara. Amara was a lifeline, fragile but unyielding, tethering her to hope. The cell door clanged open, and a guard, a wiry man with tired eyes, gestured for her to stand. Thompson, you're out. Bail's been posted. Amara's brow furrowed. Bail? By who? The guard shrugged. Some lawyer named Vasquez. Move it. Her heart skipped. She didn't know any Vasquez, but the name sparked a flicker of possibility. As she followed the guard through the labyrinth of corridors, her sneakers squeaked on the linoleum, each step echoing the rhythm of her resolve. She wasn't broken, not yet. Not ever. Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle, the air thick with the scent of wet asphalt and salt. A woman stood by the entrance, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, her navy blazer crisp despite the humidity. She was in her late 30s, with sharp brown eyes that seemed to see through the world's lies. Amara Thompson, she asked, her voice warm but commanding. I'm Elena Vasquez, your attorney. Amara blinked, her exhaustion warring with suspicion. I didn't hire you. How'd you? Elena held up a hand, a faint smile softening her features. Your neighbor, Miss Clara, called me. Said you're a hero in Liberty City and heroes don't go down without a fight. I saw the video, Jaden's video. It's everywhere now. We've got a case and I'm taking it pro bono. Amara's throat tightened. Miss Clara, the woman who'd shouted her defense in the rain, had reached out to save her. The weight of her community's support settled over her like a shield. Thank you, she managed, her voice rough. But those cops, Carter and Hayes, theory not going down easy. Elena's smile turned steely. Neither are we. Let's get you home. The drive to Liberty City was quiet, the city's neon lights blurred by the rain-streaked windows of Elena's SUV. Amara stared out, her mind replaying the night's events. Carter's smirk, Hayes's planted drugs, Titan's growl. She thought of Afghanistan, where Titan had once sniffed out a bomb hidden in a market stall, saving her unit. That same instinct had kicked in tonight, sensing the threat in Carter's eyes. She needed him now, his steady presence to ground her in this new battlefield. Elena broke the silence. The videos hit 1 million views. Hashtags like Justice for Amara are trending. Channel 7 wants an interview and the Miami Herald sniffing around. This isn't just your fight, Anna Marie, it's a movement. Amara's stomach churned. A movement? She was a nurse, not an activist. Yet the faces of her neighbors Jade and Marcus, Miss Clara, flashed in her mind. They'd stood with her, risked their safety to record the truth. She couldn't back down now. What's next? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Elena glanced at her, assessing. We build your case. The video's strong, but we need more witnesses, evidence, anything to prove Carter and Hayes have done this before. I've got a contact in the department, someone who might talk. And we need to keep the public on our side. That means you speak out, Amara. You tell your story. Amara nodded, but fear gnawed at her. Speaking out meant painting a target on her back in Titans. She thought of her mother, who died 5 years ago, urging her to stand tall. You're a Thompson, she'd said. We don't bow. Amara clenched her fists, drawing strength from the memory. They pulled up to her bungalow, a modest home with peeling paint and a small front porch. The backyard fence was ajar and Amara's heart leapt. Titan. She scrambled out of the SUV, calling his name. A deep bark answered and Titan bounded from the shadows, his fur still damp but his tail wagging furiously. He pressed against her, his warmth a balm against the night's chill. Good boy, she whispered, burying her face in his fur. Elena watched, her expression softening. He's your partner, isn't he? Amara nodded, her voice thick. Saved my life more times than I can count. Tonight too. Elena crouched beside Titan, offering her hand. He sniffed it, then leaned into her touch, his trust a rare gift. He's a warrior, she said. Like you. Get some rest, Amara. Tomorrow we fight. Inside, the house was quiet, the only sound the soft drip of a leaky faucet. Amara fed Titan, then sank onto the couch, her body aching but her mind racing. She plugged in her dead phone, and it buzzed to life, notifications flooding the screen. Texts from neighbors, voicemails from reporters, and a Twitter alert. Her name was trending. She opened the app, and Jaden's video stared back, grainy but unmistakable. Carter's smirk, Hayes' planted bag, Titan's growl, it was all there, raw and undeniable. The comments were a torrent. This is why we don't trust cops. Free Amara. Liberty City stands with you. But darker comments lurked, too. She's a dealer, look at her. That dog should be shot. Amara's stomach twisted. The hate was a reminder of the world she was up against, a world where truth could be drowned in lies. A knock at the door startled her. Titan's ears pricked, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Amara hesitated, then peered through the peephole. Marcus, Jaden's brother, stood on the porch, his hoodie damp, his face tense. She opened the door, Titan at her side. Marcus? It's late. Sorry, Amara, he said, glancing over his shoulder. I had to come. Jaden's freaking out. Some cop showed up at our place asking about the video. Didn't give a name, just said to delete it or else. Amara's blood ran cold. Did you call anyone? Marcus nodded. Miss Clara's with him now, and I called that Detective Malone. He's coming over. But Amara, they're scared. We all are. She gripped the doorframe, her fear giving way to anger. Carter and Hayes weren't stopping, they were escalating. Tell Jaden to keep that video safe. Back it up, send it to Elena. They can't silence us. Marcus's jaw tightened. You sure about this? These cops, they don't play fair. Amara met his eyes, her voice firm. Neither do we, Marcus. Not anymore. He nodded, a spark of resolve in his gaze. Aight. We got your back. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and check your mailbox. Someone left something for you. As Marcus disappeared into the night, Amara stepped onto the porch, Titan at her heel. The mailbox creaked open, revealing a folded note, its edges damp. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it, the words scrawled in jagged ink, back off, or the dog dies. Titan growled, sensing her distress. Amara's heart pounded, but she crumpled the note, her fear hardening into defiance. They don't know who they're messing with, she muttered, stroking Titan's fur. She locked the door, her mind racing. Sleep was out of the question now. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, painting the worn linoleum in gold. Amara sipped coffee, her eyes gritty from a sleepless night. Titan lay at her feet, his presence a steady anchor. Elena arrived at 8, her laptop open before the coffee was poured. The video's at 3 million views, Elena said, her fingers flying across the keys. We've got support from local activists, even some national groups. But Carter and Hayes have friends in high places. We need to move fast. Amara set her mug down, her voice quiet but firm. They threatened Jaden last night. And me. She slid the crumpled note across the table. Elena's eyes narrowed as she read it. This is intimidation, plain and simple. We'll file a report, but we need more evidence. I've got a meeting with my contact, a Ricky cop who's seen Carter's dirty tricks. If she talks, we've got a witness. Amara nodded, but her thoughts were on Titan. The threat against him was a blade to her heart. What about Titan? They mentioned him specifically. Elena leaned forward, her voice fierce. We keep him safe. He's part of this fight, Amara. The public's already calling him a hero, Liberty City's guardian. They're saying online. We use that. Make him a symbol. Amara glanced at Titan, his amber eyes meeting hers. A symbol? He was her family. But she knew Elena was right, his presence could rally people, just as it had rallied her through the darkest nights overseas. Their planning was interrupted by a sharp bark from Titan. He bolted to the back door, his hackles raised, a growl rumbling deep in his chest. Amara's pulse spiked. What is it, boy? Elena followed her to the door, her hand on her phone. Stay back. I'll call. Before she could finish, Titan scratched at the door, insistent. Amara opened it a crack, peering into the backyard. The fence was ajar again, swaying in the breeze. A shadow moved near the kennel, a figure in a dark jacket crouched low. Amara's breath caught. Someone's out there. Titan surged forward, barking furiously. The figure froze, then bolted toward the fence, scrambling over it. Titan reached the barrier in seconds, his jaws snapping inches from the intruder's leg. Amara ran after him, shouting, Titan, back! The dog obeyed, but his growl didn't stop. His eyes locked on the fence where the figure had vanished. Elena was at Amara's side, her phone already dialing 911. This is Elena Vasquez, 142,312th Street. We've had an intruder. Send someone now. Amara's hands shook as she knelt beside Titan, checking him for injuries. His fur was bristled, but he was unharmed, his loyalty unwavering. Good boy, she whispered, her voice trembling. The threat was real now, not just words on paper. When the police arrived, 2 officers Amara didn't recognize, they found no trace of the intruder. But the muddy footprints by the kennel told a story. Could have been a kid, maybe a thief, one officer suggested, but his tone was dismissive. Elena's voice was ice. Or someone sent by Carter and Hayes. This is retaliation. I want to document it. The officers exchanged glances but nodded, taking notes. As they left, Amara's phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Jaden's safe. Malone's with us. Check Twitter. She opened the app, and her breath caught. A new video had surfaced, posted by an anonymous account. Grainy footage from a neighbor's security camera, showing Hayes slipping the drug bag into his pocket before the arrest. The caption read, Miami PD exposed. Justice for Amara. The video was gaining traction, comments flooding in. This is corruption. Protect Amara and Titan. Elena's eyes lit up. This is gold. We've got them on tape. I'll get this to the DA, but we need the original file. Any idea who posted it? Amara shook her head, but her thoughts went to Miss Clara, who'd always kept a watchful eye on the block. I'll ask around. The day unfolded in a blur of strategy and support. Neighbors stopped by, bringing food and words of encouragement. Miss Clara arrived with a plate of empanadas, her eyes fierce. I knew those cops were no good, she said. My cousin's got a camera on his house. Might be him who posted that video. Amara hugged her, gratitude overwhelming her. You're saving me, Miss Clara. The older woman waved her off. We save each other, Mija. Always have. By afternoon, Bobby Malone arrived, his leather jacket smelling of rain and tobacco. He'd spent the morning with Jaden and Marcus, ensuring their safety. Kid's brave, he said of Jaden. But he's scared. Cop who threatened him matches Hayes' description. Amara's jaw tightened. They're trying to shut us up. Malone's eyes were hard. They're sloppy, Amara. I've seen Carter's type before, think they're untouchable. But I've been digging. He's got a history, complaints swept under the rug, witnesses intimidated. If we find one who'll talk, we bury him. Amara nodded, her resolve stealing. What do I do? Malone leaned in, his voice low. Stay visible. The public's with you, keep them there. Elena's got the legal side, but you're the heart of this. And keep that dog close. He's your edge. Titan nudged her hand as if agreeing. Amara scratched his ears, her fear giving way to determination. She thought of her time in Afghanistan, the nights when Titan's steady breathing had been her only comfort. She'd faced worse than Carter and Hayes, she could face this too. That evening, Elena arranged a press conference outside the community center. A modest building with murals of hope painted on its walls. Amara stood before a small crowd, reporters, neighbors, activists, their cameras flashing like stars. Titan sat at her side, his presence calming her nerves. She gripped the podium, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. My name is Amara Thompson, she began, her words carrying over the murmurs. I'm a nurse, a veteran, and a daughter of Liberty City. Last night, Officers Carter and Hayes tried to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. But they didn't count on Yumi community, my family standing with me. We're not just fighting for me. We're fighting for every person who's been silenced, every truth that's been buried. We won't stop until justice is served. The crowd erupted, clapping and chanting her name. Jaden and Marcus stood in the front row, their phones raised, streaming live. Miss Clara wiped tears from her eyes, her pride palpable. Even Malone, leaning against a wall, gave a rare nod of approval. But as Amara stepped down, her phone buzzed with a new notification, a direct message on Twitter, anonymous and chilling. You're making enemies, Thompson. Watch your back. Titan growled, sensing her tension. Amara's heart raced, but she squared her shoulders, her eyes scanning the crowd. They were with her, hundreds of voices, thousands online. Carter and Hayes could threaten, could scheme. But they couldn't stop the roar of truth now rising from Liberty City. With Titan at her side and her community behind her, Amara was ready to fight not just for her freedom, but for a future where no one else would face the rain alone. The Miami-Dade County Courthouse loomed like a fortress under a sky bruised with clouds, its concrete facade a silent witness to countless battles for truth. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation, the hum of voices echoing off polished marble floors. Amara Thompson, 32, stood at the entrance of courtroom 4B, her heart a steady drumbeat against the weight of the moment. Her navy blazer, borrowed from Elena Vasquez, felt foreign, a stark contrast to her usual scrubs, but it gave her a sense of armor. Beside her, Titan, her German shepherd, sat alert, his amber eyes scanning the crowd. As a service animal, his presence was permitted, and his calm strength grounded her in this storm of uncertainty. The past week had been a whirlwind. Jaden's video of her arrest had exploded online, racking up 10 million views and sparking protests outside the Miami Police Department. The hashtag Justice for Amara trended nationwide, with activists, celebrities, and ordinary citizens amplifying her story. A second video from a neighbor's security camera had sealed the case against officers Daniel Carter and Liam Hayes, showing Hayes planting the drug bag. Yet Amara knew the courtroom was a different battlefield, where truth could be twisted by power and privilege. Today, she wasn't just fighting for her freedom, she was fighting for every person who'd been silenced by a badge. Elena Vasquez, 38, her attorney, stood beside her, her sharp eyes scanning the docket. You ready? She asked, her voice a mix of steel and warmth. Amara nodded, her throat tight. As I'll ever be. Let's do this. Elena squeezed her shoulder. You're not alone, Amara. Look around. Amara turned, and her breath caught. The hallway was packed with supporters, neighbors from Liberty City, activists in Justice for Amara shirts, and reporters jostling for a shot. Miss Clara, the store owner who'd rallied for her, stood with a proud smile, her empanadas replaced by a sign reading Truth Wins. Jaden and Marcus, the brothers whose video had ignited this fight, waved from the crowd, their phones ready to stream. Even Bobby Malone, the retired detective who'd stood up to Carter in the rain, leaned against a pillar, his nod a silent vow of support. Their presence was a tapestry of courage woven from shared struggle. As they entered the courtroom, the wooden pews creaked under the weight of onlookers. The prosecution's table was occupied by Assistant District Attorney Victor Reyes, a slick man in his 40s with a reputation for protecting cops. Carter and Hayes sat beside him, their uniforms replaced by ill-fitting suits, their faces a mix of defiance and unease. Carter's eyes locked onto Amara, his smirk a blade, but she met his gaze, unflinching. Titan sensed her tension, his ears twitching, a low rumble in his throat silenced by her gentle touch. Judge Lorraine Esposito, a woman in her 60s with a stern face softened by wisdom, took her seat, her gavel a quiet command for order. We're here for the case of Amara Thompson versus officers Daniel Carter and Liam Hayes, she announced, her voice steady. Charges include evidence tampering, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. Ms. Vasquez, you may begin. Elena rose, her presence filling the room like a gathering storm. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about more than one woman's wrongful arrest. It's about a pattern of corruption within the Miami Police Department, where officers like Carter and Hayes believe they're above the law. On the night of June 3rd, Amara Thompson, a nurse and Army veteran, was targeted, framed, and humiliated. But they didn't count on her strength or the eyes of a community watching. She clicked a remote, and a screen flickered to life, displaying Jaden's video. The courtroom stilled as the grainy footage played. Carter's smug accusation, Hayes tossing the drug bag, Titan's growl cutting through the rain. Gasps rippled through the gallery, jurors leaning forward, their faces a mix of shock and anger. Amara watched, her chest tight, reliving the moment that had upended her life. Titan pressed against her leg, his warmth a reminder to breathe. Elena paused the video, her voice sharp. This isn't just a moment of misconduct. It's evidence of a deliberate setup. And we have more. She introduced the second video, from Ms. Clara's cousin's security camera, showing Hayes slipping the drug bag into his pocket hours before the arrest. The footage was damning, Hayes's movements calculated, his glance at Carter conspiratorial. The jury's murmurs grew and Carter's smirk faltered, his hands clenching. Reyes rose, his tone smooth but strained. Objection, Your Honor. This footage lacks proper authentication. It could be manipulated. Elena was ready. The video's metadata has been verified by an independent forensic analyst, Your Honor. We've submitted the report for review. Judge Esposito nodded, her eyes narrowing. Overruled. Continue, Ms. Vasquez. Elena called her first witness, Jaden Carter, 16, who took the stand with a mix of nerves and defiance. His hoodie was gone, replaced by a button-up shirt, but his eyes held the same fire Amara had seen in the rain. I was walking home when I saw the cops pull up, he said, his voice steady. They cuffed Ms. Amara, threw that bag at her feet. I knew it wasn't right, so I recorded it. Reyes leaned forward, his smile predatory. You're a minor, Mr. Carter, with a history of truancy. Why should we trust your account over two decorated officers? Jaden's jaw tightened. Because I ain't got no reason to lie. Ms. Amara's always been good to ushelt my mom with her meds, fixed my bike once. Those cops? They're the ones lying. The jury nodded, some smiling at Jaden's candor. Amara's heart swelled with pride, but fear lingered. Reyes's questions were a warning of the attacks to come. Next, Elena called Ms. Clara, whose testimony was a quiet force. I've known Amara since she was a girl, she said, her voice thick with emotion. She's a nurse, a veteran, a daughter of Liberty City. That night, I saw those officers plant that bag. My cousin's camera caught it too. We won't let them bury her. Reyes tried to rattle her, questioning her eyesight and motives, but Ms. Clara held firm. My eyes work fine, Mr. Reyes. And my motive? It's called justice. The gallery murmured approval, and Amara saw jurors scribbling notes. Titan's tail flicked, as if sensing the tide turning. But the real bombshell came with Elena's next witness. Officer Sarah Ruiz, 30, a rookie under Carter's command. Her uniform was crisp, but her hands trembled as she took the oath, her eyes avoiding Carter's glare. Elena's voice was gentle but probing. Officer Ruiz, what did you witness regarding Amara Thompson's arrest? Ruiz swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. I was in the precinct that night. I heard Carter and Hayes talking, planning to take down someone who'd filed complaints against them. They mentioned Amara's name. Later, I saw Hayes with that bag before they left for patrol. The courtroom erupted, gasps and whispers filling the air. Carter lunged from his seat, his face red. You're lying, Ruiz. You traitor. Bailiffs restrained him, his outburst echoing as Judge Esposito banged her gavel. Order, she snapped, her eyes blazing. Mr. Carter, control yourself or you'll be removed. Ruiz continued, her voice gaining strength. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw the video. I couldn't stay silent. Amara didn't deserve this. Reyes's cross-examination was brutal, painting Ruiz as a disgruntled rookie with a grudge. You're risking your career, Officer Ruiz. Is this worth it? Ruiz met his gaze, her voice firm. Yes. Because it's right. The jury's faces softened and Amara felt a surge of gratitude. Ruiz had crossed a line few dared to, risking everything for the truth. Titan's low rumble seemed to echo her resolve, his presence a silent testament to loyalty. Elena's final witness was Amara herself. As she took the stand, the courtroom stilled, every eye on her. Titan lay at the foot of the stand, his gaze steady, giving her courage. Elena's questions were gentle, guiding her through the night of the arrest, her service in Afghanistan, her work as a nurse. Amara's voice was clear, her words raw. "I've spent my life helping people," she said, her eyes on the jury. "In war zones, in hospitals, in my neighborhood. That night, Carter and Hayes tried to take that from me. But they didn't count on my community, on Titan, on the truth. I'm not a criminal. I'm a fighter." The jury leaned forward, some wiping tears. Elena presented Amara's military records, glowing letters from patients, and a photo of her with Titan in Afghanistan, his head resting on her shoulder. The image drew murmurs of admiration, Titan's heroism a mirror to her own. Reyes's cross-examination was a knife, sharp and relentless. "Ms. Thompson, you've filed complaints against officers before, haven't you? Is this a vendetta?" Amara's jaw tightened, but her voice was steady. "I reported harassment because it was real. I don't have a vendetta, I have a right to live without fear." Reyes smirked, pressing harder. "Your dog's aggressive, isn't he? A threat to officers doing their job." Amara's eyes flashed. "Titan's trained to protect, not attack. He sensed their lies before I did. He's no threat, my partner." The jury nodded, and Titan's calm presence undercut Reyes's attack. As Amara stepped down, the gallery erupted in applause, quickly silenced by Esposito's gavel. Amara returned to her seat, her hands trembling but her heart steady. Titan nudged her, his warmth a quiet victory. The prosecution's case was weak, relying on Carter and Hayes' testimony. Carter took the stand, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "We found the drugs on her," he claimed, his eyes avoiding the jury. "She resisted, and that dog was a danger." Elena's cross-examination was a masterclass in precision. "Officer Carter, how do you explain this video?" She replayed Hayes planting the bag, Carter's not visible in the frame. Carter stammered, his lies unraveling. "That's edited. It's not what it looks like." "And this?" Elena played Jaden's video. Carter's smirk undeniable. The jury's faces hardened and Carter's composure cracked, his hands shaking. Hayes' testimony was no better, his voice faltering under Elena's questions. "I followed protocol," he insisted, but the videos told a different story. Reyes's objections grew desperate, but Esposito overruled them, her patience thinning. As the trial adjourned for lunch, Amara stepped outside, Titan at her heel. The courtyard was a sea of supporters, their signs a riot of color. "Free Amara! Titan for mayor!" The tension flared when a group of counter-protesters, some in police union shirts, pushed through, shouting, "Cops keep us safe." A burly man pointed at Amara, his voice venomous. "You're tearing the city apart." Titan growled, stepping forward, but Amara's command stand kept him still. Marcus and Jaden flanked her, their phones raised, streaming the confrontation. Malone appeared, his presence a wall. "Back off," he warned, his voice low. The man hesitated, then retreated, the crowd's cheers drowning his curses. Amara's heart raced, but she stood tall, her voice carrying. "We're not tearing anything apart. We're building justice." The supporters roared, their unity a shield against hate. Back in the courtroom, Elena's closing argument was a clarion call. "This isn't just about Amara Thompson," she said, her voice ringing. "It's about a system that lets officers like Carter and Hayes prey on the vulnerable. The evidence is clear. Videos, witnesses, even one of their own. Amara's not a criminal, she's a hero, backed by a community that won't be silenced. Find these officers guilty and send a message. No one is above the law." Reyes's closing was a weak counter, leaning on officer discretion and public safety. But the jury's faces told the story, they weren't buying it. Judge Esposito's instructions were solemn, urging the jury to weigh the evidence carefully. As they filed out to deliberate, Amara's stomach churned. Titan pressed against her, his warmth a reminder of their bond. Elena leaned close, her voice soft. "You were incredible up there. Whatever happens, you've changed things." Amara nodded, her eyes on the empty jury box. She thought of Afghanistan, where Titan had led her through minefields, and of Liberty City, where her neighbors had led her through this. She wasn't alone. The deliberation lasted 2 hours, each minute an eternity. When the jury returned, the courtroom held its breath. The foreman, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, stood. On the charges of evidence tampering, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice, we find the defendants, Daniel Carter and Liam Hayes, guilty. The gallery erupted, cheers and sobs mingling. Amara's knees buckled, but Elena caught her smile fierce. Titan's tail wagged, his rumble a quiet triumph. Carter's face was ashen, Hayes's head bowed, their power stripped away. Judge Esposito's gavel silenced the room. This court condemns the defendant's actions, she said, her voice grave. But it also urges reform. The Miami Police Department must address this rot, or trust will never be rebuilt. Sentencing will follow next week. As the bailiffs led Carter and Hayes away, Amara met their eyes, her gaze unflinching. They tried to break her, but she'd stood taller, backed by a community that refused to bow. Outside, the crowd was a sea of joy, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Amara stepped into the sunlight, Titan at her side, her voice steady as she spoke to the press. "This isn't just my victory," she said, her words carrying over the cheers. "It's as every person who stood up, who spoke out, who believed in justice. We're not done. This is just the beginning." The crowd roared, their signs waving like flags of hope. Jaden streamed live, his grin wide. Miss Clara hugged Amara, tears streaming. Malone nodded, his rare smile a badge of pride. As Amara looked out, she saw a city waking up, a movement rising from the ashes of injustice. With Titan's steady presence and her community's unyielding spirit, she knew the fight was far from over, but for the first time, she felt the dawn of justice breaking through the clouds. The sun hung low over Miami's Liberty City, painting the streets in hues of gold and amber, a stark contrast to the storm that had birthed Amara Thompson's fight. A week had passed since the guilty verdict against officers Daniel Carter and Liam Hayes, and the air buzzed with a new energy pulse of hope, defiance, and purpose. Amara, 32, stood on the steps of the Liberty City Community Center, her heart swelling as she watched the crowd gather. Hundreds of people, neighbors, activists, family filled the parking lot, their voices a vibrant chorus of change. Signs waved like flags, justice for Amara. Reform now. Titan's our hero. At her side, Titan, her German shepherd, sat alert, his amber eyes scanning the scene, his presence a quiet anchor in the rising tide. The verdict had been a spark, igniting a movement that refused to flicker out. The Miami Justice Alliance, born from the ashes of Amara's trial, was now a force, led by Elena Vasquez, Marcus, and a growing coalition of community leaders. Their demands mandatory body cameras, diversity training, civilian oversight boards were gaining traction, with city council members pledging support under pressure from viral hashtags and nightly protests. Amara's story, amplified by Jaden's video and the courage of Liberty City, had become a beacon, drawing attention from national media and inspiring other communities to rise. But with hope came resistance, and Amara knew the fight was far from over. Today was a milestone, the unveiling of a mural, a vibrant testament to their struggle, painted on the community center's west wall. Amara adjusted her denim jacket, her nerves tingling as she scanned the crowd. Miss Clara, the store owner who'd rallied for her, stood with her grandson, their smiles radiant. Jaden and Marcus, the brothers whose video had changed everything, live-streamed the event, their phones abridged to thousands online. Bobby Malone, the retired detective, leaned against a lamppost, his leather jacket a constant in the shifting world. Elena, in a crisp blazer, coordinated with volunteers, her energy magnetic. "You nervous?" Elena asked, joining Amara on the steps, her sharp eyes softening. Amara nodded, her voice low. "This feels bigger than me, Elena. All these people, they're counting on us." Elena's smile was fierce. "That's why we're here. You started this, Amara. Your courage, Titan's loyalty, it's a fire they can't put out. Let's show them what we're building." Amara glanced at Titan, his ears pricked, his tail flicking. He'd been her shield through war zones and wrongful arrests, and now he was a symbol, dubbed Liberty City's Guardian by Twitter. She scratched his ears, drawing strength from his steady gaze. "All right, boy. Let's do this." The ceremony began with a drum line from the local high school, their beats echoing like a heartbeat. A young poet, 17-year-old Aisha, took the microphone, her words a blade of truth. "We rise from the ashes. Our voices aflame / Liberty City won't play their game." The crowd cheered, their energy electric, a tapestry of Black, Latino, and Caribbean faces united by a shared dream. Marcus stepped up next, his voice carrying over the murmurs. "This mural ain't just art," he said, gesturing to the covered wall. "It's our story, Amara's fight, Titan's growl, our phones in the rain. It's a promise. We won't stop till justice is real." He nodded to Amara, and the crowd roared, chanting her name. Amara took the microphone, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Thank you," she began, her words raw. "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who's been stopped, searched, silenced. It's about Jaden risking everything to record the truth. About Miss Clara standing up when it wasn't safe. About Titan, who never left my side. We're building something bigger in Miami where no one's afraid to walk home." The crowd erupted, their applause a wave washing over her. Titan's tail wagged, his rumble a quiet echo of their unity. As Amara stepped back, Elena and a group of artists pulled the cover from the mural, revealing an explosion of color. Amara and Titan in the rain, surrounded by raised phones, their faces fierce with resolve. Behind them, silhouettes of protesters and children held signs, with words woven into the design: truth, justice, unity. The crowd gasped, then cheered, cameras flashing like stars. But the celebration was cut short by a shout from the edge of the lot. A group of counter-protesters, 24 strong, pushed through, their signs harsh. "Back the blue! Stop dividing us!" Some wore police union shirts, their faces twisted with anger. A burly man in a red cap pointed at Amara, his voice venomous. "You're a liar, Thompson. You're tearing this city apart." Titan growled, stepping forward, his hackles raised. Amara's hand shot out, "Stand, Titan," keeping him still, but her heart raced. The crowd tensed, murmurs turning to shouts. Marcus and Jaden moved closer, their phones streaming while Elena stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "This is a peaceful event. You're welcome to stay, but don't disrupt." The man sneered, advancing. "Peaceful? You're attacking cops. That dog's a menace, ought to be locked up." His group cheered, emboldened, their signs waving like weapons. Amara's blood boiled, but she kept her voice steady. "Titan's no menace. He's a hero just like the people here. We're not attacking any Onuri, demanding justice." The crowd rallied, chanting, "Justice! Justice!" Malone pushed through, his presence a wall. "Back off, pal," he warned the man, his gravelly voice low. "You're outnumbered and you're on camera." The man hesitated, glancing at the phone surrounding him. Jaden's live stream was live, comments flooding in. "Don't let them intimidate. Protect Amara." The counter-protesters faltered, their bravado crumbling under the weight of scrutiny. A police cruiser pulled up, 2 officers stepping out to monitor, their expressions neutral. The man in the red cap spat on the ground, then retreated, his group trailing behind, their shouts fading. The crowd exhaled, their unity unbroken. Amara met Elena's eyes, a silent acknowledgement of their strength. Titan relaxed, nudging her hand, his loyalty a quiet triumph. Marcus grinned, holding up his phone. "We got it all. They can't spin this." The ceremony resumed, the tension giving way to joy. Families took photos by the mural, children tracing Titan's image with awe. A local band played, their rhythms weaving through laughter and conversation. Amara moved through the crowd, shaking hands, hugging neighbors, her heart full. Miss Clara pulled her into a fierce embrace. "You're our pride, Mija. Don't ever forget it." As dusk settled, painting the sky in purples and pinks, Elena gathered the Alliance's leaders in the community center. Amara, Marcus, Malone, and a dozen others sat around a folding table, papers strewn with plans, policy proposals, outreach programs, youth workshops. Elena's voice was crisp, her laptop glowing with data. "The city council's meeting next week to discuss police reform. We've got 3 counselors on our side, but we need more. Our petition's at 50,000 signatures, let's double it." Marcus leaned forward, his eyes bright. "We're planning a rally before the meeting. Get every neighborhood out over town, Little Havana, Wynwood. Show 'em we're united." Malone nodded, his voice gruff. "I've got contacts in other precincts. Some cops are fed up with the old guard. If we push, we might flip a few." Amara listened, her mind racing. The Alliance was growing, but so were the risks. The threat against Titan still lingered, and the counter-protesters' anger was a warning of deeper resistance. She thought of Afghanistan, where every step risked a hidden bomb. This was no different, just a new kind of war. Her thoughts were interrupted by a text from Jaden. "Check the news." "Big?" She opened her phone, and her breath caught. CNN was covering the mural unveiling with a headline, "Miami's Mural of Justice, a community's fight against corruption." The article quoted Amara, praised Titan, and called the Alliance a model for reform. Comments online were a flood of support, but the hate was there, trolls calling her a cop hater, threatening her and Titan. Elena noticed her tension. "Ignore the noise, Amara. Focus on the signal. We're making waves. Amara nodded, but the threats weighed heavy. That night, as she locked her bungalow's doors, Titan patrolled the house, his ears pricked. She checked the backyard fence, now reinforced after the intruder, but unease lingered. She sat on the couch, Titan at her feet, and opened her laptop, scrolling through messages of support. One stood out, from a woman in Atlanta: "Your story's inspiring us to fight here. Thank you, Amara and Titan." The words warmed her, but a new email chilled her blood. Sent from an anonymous account, it read, "You won't last. Neither will the dog." Attached was a photo of her house, taken from across the street, the timestamp from yesterday. Amara's hand shook, her fear spiking. Titan growled, sensing her distress, his eyes locked on the door. She called Elena, her voice tight. "They're watching me. They sent a picture of my house." Elena's response was immediate. "I'm coming over. Call Malone. Don't open the door for anyone else." Malone arrived first, his truck rumbling into the driveway. He scanned the street, his flashlight cutting through the dark. "No one's out there now," he said, stepping inside. "But they're trying to scare you. Probably Carter's buddies." Elena arrived minutes later, her face grim. "This is escalation. We'll file a restraining order and request police protection, though I don't trust them. I've got a private security contact who owes me a favor." Amara nodded, her fear giving way to anger. "They think they can shut me up. They're wrong." Malone's eyes were hard. "Keep Titan close. He's better than any guard. And Amara, don't let them see you flinch. That's what they want." Titan nudged her hand, his warmth a quiet vow. She thought of the mural, its colors a defiance against fear. She wouldn't flinch, not now, not ever. The next morning, the Alliance met at the community center, the threat fueling their resolve. Elena presented a plan. A live broadcast to announce their rally, streamed on social media to reach millions. Amara would speak, alongside Marcus and Aisha, their voices a united front. "We show them we're not afraid," Elena said. "We turn their threats into our strength." Amara agreed, but her thoughts were on Titan. She'd kept him inside since the photo, his kennel abandoned for safety. He sensed her worry, staying close, his loyalty unwavering. She thought of their nights in Afghanistan, when his steady breathing had calmed her fears. He was her partner, and she'd protect him as fiercely as he protected her. The broadcast was set for dusk, the community center transformed into a studio. Lights blazed, cameras rolled, and a crowd gathered outside, their signs glowing under street lamps. Amara stood before the microphone, Titan at her side, her heart steady despite the weight of millions watching. Marcus and Aisha flanked her, their presence a shield. "My name is Amara Thompson," she began, her voice clear. "A week ago, I was framed by corrupt officers. But my community family stood with me. We won in court, but the fight's not over. We're demanding reform, accountability, justice. Not just for me, but for every person who's been wronged. Join us. Stand with us. Because together we're unstoppable." Marcus spoke next, his voice fierce. "This ain't just Liberty City's fight. It's Miami's. It's America's. We're rallying next week, be there. Or watch us change the world." Aisha closed with a poem, her words of fire. "Our voices rise, our hearts ignite, we'll burn through darkness, claim our light." The crowd outside roared, their cheers echoing online, where the live stream hit 1 million viewers. Comments flooded in. "Amara's a queen. Titan for president. Miami's showing us how it's done." But as the broadcast ended, a new threat emerged. A car idled across the street, its windows tinted, its engine a low growl. Titan's hackles raised, his bark sharp. Malone was at the door in seconds, his hand on his phone. "Stay inside," he warned, stepping out to confront it. The car sped off, its taillights vanishing into the night. Elena's face was grim. "They're testing us. But they're scared too. That broadcast just put the world's eyes on us." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. The threats, the car, the photo, they were desperate moves by a system losing control. She looked at Titan, his eyes meeting hers, a silent pact. They'd started this fire and they'd see it burn bright, no matter the cost. As the crowd dispersed, Amara lingered by the mural, its colors glowing under floodlights. Miss Clara joined her, her voice soft. "Your mama would be proud, Amara. She always said you were born to fight." Amara's throat tightened, her mother's memory a guiding star. "I hope so, Miss Clara. I'm trying." The older woman squeezed her hand. You're doing more than trying. You're leading. And we're right behind you. Amara looked out, the city alive with possibility. The alliance was growing, their rally looming, their message spreading. With Titan at her side, Elena's strategy, Marcus's fire, and Malone's grit, she felt the weight of their shared dream. The fire of their movement was burning bright, and no threat could extinguish it. As the stars emerged, Amara vowed to keep fighting not just for Liberty City, but for a world where justice was more than a word, a world where no one faced the rain alone. The morning sun spilled over Miami's skyline, its golden rays threading through the palm trees that lined Biscayne Boulevard, casting long shadows across the sprawling park where the Miami Justice Alliance was set to make history. Amara Thompson, 32, stood at the edge of a makeshift stage, her heart a steady rhythm against the hum of anticipation. The air was alive with voices, thousands of them, a vibrant mosaic of Black, Latino, and Caribbean faces, all gathered for the Coalition for Justice Summit, a landmark event that had grown from the spark of her fight. Signs waved like sails in a sea of hope. Reform now. Unity is our strength. Titan leads the way. Beside her, Titan, her German shepherd, sat alert, his amber eyes scanning the crowd, his presence a quiet beacon in the swelling tide. 3 weeks had passed since the mural unveiling, and the Miami Justice Alliance had become a force, its roots deepening in Liberty City and branching out to Overtown, Little Havana, and beyond. The guilty verdict against officers Daniel Carter and Liam Hayes had been a catalyst, but the threats, the anonymous email, the tinted car, the photo of her house had only fueled Amara's resolve. The Alliance's rally before the city council had drawn 10,000 people, their chants shaking City Hall. Under pressure, the council had passed a resolution for police reform, mandatory body cameras, a civilian oversight board, and diversity training. But Amara knew resolutions were just words without action, and today's summit was about turning promises into reality. The park was a hive of activity. Booths lined the paths, offering voter registration, legal aid, and youth programs. A drumline from a local high school set the rhythm, their beats pulsing like a heartbeat. Children painted signs, their laughter mingling with the murmurs of organizers. Amara's eyes found familiar faces. Elena Vasquez, 38, her attorney and the Alliance's strategist, coordinating with city officials. Marcus, 22, live streaming the event, his energy infectious. Ms. Clara, 50s, handing out water with her grandson. Bobby Malone, 62, the retired detective, watching the crowd with his usual vigilance. Their presence was a tapestry of courage woven from shared struggle and unyielding hope. You ready for this? Elena asked, joining Amara, her blazer crisp despite the humidity. Amara nodded, her denim jacket a comfortable weight. It's bigger than I ever imagined. All these people, they're here because of us. Elena's smile was fierce. Because of you, Amara. You and Titan lit the fire. Today we show the world it's spreading. Amara glanced at Titan, his ears pricked, his tail flicking. Dubbed Liberty City's guardian online, he'd become a symbol, his image on t-shirts and protest signs. She thought of their nights in Afghanistan, when his nose had sniffed out danger, and their mornings in Miami, when his loyalty had grounded her. All right, boy, she whispered, scratching his ears. Let's make them proud. The summit began with a moment of silence, honoring those lost to injustice. Aisha, the 17-year-old poet, opened with a verse that cut like a blade. From shadows we rise, our hearts alight / we carve our truth in the endless night. The crowd cheered, their voices a thunder rolling across the park. Marcus took the stage, his phone streaming to millions. This ain't just Miami's fight, he said, his voice fierce. It's Atlanta's, Chicago's, LA's. We're building a coalition, city by city, to change this country. Who's with us? The crowd roared, their signs waving like a forest in the wind. Amara watched, her heart swelling. This was more than a movement, it was a family forged in the crucible of struggle. But the harmony was tested when a new threat emerged. As Amara prepared to speak, Malone approached, his face grim. We've got a problem, he said, his voice low. My contact in the precinct says Carter's old partner, Officer Greg Nolan, is under investigation. They found files in his locker, complaints against Carter and Hayes, buried for years. Someone's trying to destroy them before they surface. Amara's stomach tightened. Who? Malone's eyes were hard. Nolan's crew. They're loyal to Carter and they're desperate. My contact says they're planning something, maybe a leak to discredit us, maybe worse. Keep Titan close. Amara nodded, her fear giving way to resolve. She thought of the email threatening Titan, the car idling outside the community center. They were cornered, and cornered animals were dangerous. Titan sensed her tension, nudging her hand, his growl a quiet vow. The summit continued, with leaders from Atlanta, New Orleans, and Minneapolis sharing their stories. A woman from Chicago spoke of her brother, killed by police, her voice breaking but fierce. "Miami's showing us how to fight," she said, pointing to Amara. "You're our blueprint." The crowd cheered, and Amara felt the weight of their trust, a mantle she wore with pride. Her turn came at noon, the sun high, the crowd a sea of expectation. She stepped to the microphone, Titan at her side, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "My name is Amara Thompson," she began, her words carrying over the murmurs. "A month ago I was cuffed in the rain, framed by corrupt officers. But my community family stood with me. Jaden's video, Miss Clara's courage, Titan's loyalty, they saved me. Now we're saving each other. This coalition isn't just about reform, it's about rebuilding trust, city by city, heart by heart. We're not stopping until justice is real for everyone." The crowd erupted, their applause a wave crashing over her. Titan's tail wagged, his rumble a quiet echo of their unity. Marcus's live stream hit 2 million viewers, comments flooding in. "Amara's a legend. Titan's the real MVP. This is how we change America." But darker comments lurked. "She's a fraud. That dog's a killer." Amara ignored them, her eyes on the crowd, their faces a mosaic of hope. As she stepped down, a commotion broke out near the park's edge. A group of protesters smaller than the counter-protesters at the mural unveiling but no less angry pushed through, their signs harsh. "Cops are heroes. Stop the lies." A woman in a blue jacket shouted, "Thompson's a criminal. You're all brainwashed." The crowd tensed, murmurs turning to shouts. Titan growled, stepping forward, but Amara's command stand kept him still. Malone and Marcus moved to her side, their presence a shield. Elena took the microphone, her voice calm but commanding. "This is a peaceful summit. You're free to speak, but don't disrupt our work." The woman sneered, advancing. "Work? You're slandering good officers. That dog's a threat, ought to be put down." Her group cheered, their anger a spark in dry grass. Amara's blood boiled, but she kept her voice steady. "Titan's no threat. He's a hero just like the people here. We're not slandering Ennio Nuri exposing corruption." The crowd rallied, chanting, "Justice! Justice!" Malone stepped forward, his gravelly voice cutting through. "Move along, ma'am. You're on camera, and you're not winning this." He nodded to Jaden, whose phone was streaming live, the comments a flood of support. The woman hesitated, glancing at the phones surrounding her. A police cruiser pulled up, officers monitoring but staying neutral. The protesters faltered, their bravado crumbling under scrutiny. They retreated, their shouts fading, but Amara's unease lingered. She thought of Malone's warning Nolan's crew was desperate, and this felt like a diversion. Her fears were confirmed an hour later when Titan's behavior shifted. As Amara spoke with a group from Atlanta, he froze, his nose twitching, his growl low. He tugged at his leash, pulling her toward a booth where volunteers sorted flyers. "What is it, boy?" she asked, her pulse spiking. Titan sniffed a stack of boxes under the table, his growl intensifying. Malone was at her side in seconds, his eyes narrowing. "Back everyone up," he said, waving the volunteers away. He lifted a box, revealing a small, unmarked bag tucked beneath white powder like the one Hayes had planted. The crowd gasped, phones raised, recording the discovery. Elena joined them, her face grim. "Someone planted this. They're trying to frame us again." Malone's voice was low. "Nolan's crew, I bet. They want to discredit the summit, make it look like we're dirty." He called his contact, a rookie cop, who arrived discreetly to collect the bag for testing. "Titan just saved our rep," Malone said, scratching the dog's ears. "Good boy." Amara's heart raced, but she knelt beside Titan, her voice steady. "You did it again, boy." "Thank you." The crowd cheered, their phones capturing Titan's heroics, the moment going viral. The summit continued, the discovery fueling their resolve. Leaders signed a pact, pledging to share resources and strategies, a blueprint for nationwide reform. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in purples and golds, Amara lingered by the stage, Titan at her feet. Miss Clara joined her, her eyes shining. "Your mama's watching, Amara. She's proud." Amara's throat tightened, her mother's memory a guiding light. "I hope so, Miss Clara. I'm doing this for her, for all of us." The older woman squeezed her hand. "You're doing more than that. You're changing the world. Amara looked out, the park emptying but alive with possibility. The coalition was thriving, their pact a promise of change. News broke that night. The investigation into Nolan had uncovered a network of corruption, with more officers facing scrutiny. Titan's discovery had tipped the scales, exposing the rot Carter and Hayes had left behind. Back home, Amara sat on her porch, Titan curled beside her. The night soft with cricket songs. Her phone buzzed with updates. The summit had trended globally, with cities from Seattle to Baltimore reaching out to join the coalition. Elena texted, "We're unstoppable now. Rest Upiri speaking at the next one." Amara smiled, scratching Titan's ears. She thought of the rain that had started this, the cuffs that had bound her, the community that had freed her. She thought of Afghanistan, where Titan had led her through darkness, and of Liberty City, where her neighbors had done the same. The threats hadn't stopped. Another anonymous message had arrived, warning her to quit while you're ahead, but they no longer shook her. She was no longer alone. As the stars emerged, Amara stood, Titan at her side, her eyes on the horizon. The dawn of justice was breaking, not just for Miami, but for every city ready to rise. With her community's voices, Titan's loyalty, and the fire of their shared dream, she knew the road ahead was long but lit with hope. They'd started this together, and together they'd see it through a world where no one faced the rain alone. Alright, folks, let's take a moment to step out of Amara and Titan's epic saga and talk real talk because, let's be honest, this story hits harder than a Miami hurricane. Justice Unleashed isn't just a tale of one woman and her badass dog taking on crooked cops. It's a mirror held up to our world, 2025 style, where smartphones are mightier than swords and community is the ultimate superpower. So grab your coffee or your energy drink, no judgment, and let's unpack what this means for us, with a side of sass and a sprinkle of wisdom. First off, let's give it up for Amara, who faced a setup that'd make most of us curl up and cry. Yet she stood tall, backed by her furry MVP Titan. Here's the lesson. When life throws you a curveball like a planted bag of mystery powder or say your boss for getting your promotion didn't just take it. Fight back, but fight smart. Amara didn't go all action movie vigilante. She leaned on her community, from Jaden's viral video to Ms. Clara's empanada-powered support. In today's world where X posts can spark revolutions and hashtags can topple empires, your voice matters. Ever tweeted about a bad Uber driver and got a refund? Same vibe, bigger stakes. So what's your planted bag moment? And who's your Titan human or furry cheering you on? Now let's talk about those phones in the story. Jaden and Marcus weren't just recording, they were rewriting history, one shaky video at a time. In 2025, we're all walking newsrooms with cameras in our pockets and platforms at our fingertips. But here's the kicker, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, I went there. Use your tech for good, call out injustice, amplify the silenced, but don't just chase clout. Ever see a viral video of someone doing wrong only to find out it was edited to heck? Be the Jaden who gets it right. What's one thing you've seen online that made you want to hit share for justice? And here's the big takeaway, served with a smirk. Change ain't a solo gig. Amara, Titan, Elena, Malone, they were a squad like the Avengers but with better empanadas. Whether it's fighting for fair policing or just getting your neighborhood potholes fixed, you need your crew. In a world where folks are quick to cancel each other on X, let's build bridges instead. Who's in your alliance and what's your next move to make things right? So what's the call to action? Don't just nod and scroll, get out there, speak up, and maybe pet a dog for good luck. And hey, if you love this roller coaster of a story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that'll make you laugh, cry, and maybe even start your own Justice League. Drop a comment. What's your takeaway from Amara's fight, and who's your real-life Titan? Let's keep the fire burning, folks.